Good day, everyone. This is Matt McGall with 330 to go, and currently I am joined with head football coach of the Green Bulldogs, Coach Mark Geis. Coach, how are you doing today? Taking a break from school to talk it up with me.
Yeah, it's anytime you get to talk about football and talk about the great kids in Green, Ohio, it's a good day. So doing well.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking time out during the day. We put up each week we pick games of the week. This last week we did something different and we went to a poll. Green Perry, I don't know if you can thank Green Moms or what the hottest growing network out there, but they catapulted you guys to the very top, your fan base, as our game of the week against Perry. But before we get to that, Coach, let's talk about your season. To me, I always want to talk about the week before because of where you're at with a mind frame. I think the big thing with Green is I go all the way back to week 1. You come out, you lost to Dover, and then chatter started. 6-1 since then. You guys have been on a complete rampage. I don't want to say right the ship, turn the ship, but you got everybody focused. It was like a wake-up call. Is that something that you guys have talked about as a coaching staff at all, looking back, seeing the evolution of where you guys are at currently sitting second in the Federal?
Yeah, I think you can actually go back probably 3 years and how our toughness has developed. I mean, we've been up against a lot of interesting situations, injury-wise, had our backs against the wall in the last 3 years many times. In week 1, we, kind of some self-inflicted errors there in the fourth quarter. We put ourselves at the end of the game, unfortunately, on the wrong end of the win-loss column. But our kids really never flinched. And I think they really, we can hear things outside our locker room as maybe this team doesn't have what it takes, but we have some very tough kids and, they reacted in the right way and we got back on track. Certainly a credit to the toughness of those kids.
Well, you bring up a great point. Year in, year out, there's that talk where when you talk about the Federal around Northeastern Ohio, it's one of the premier conferences. And for some reason, when you talk about that, Green's name's never mentioned till maybe, unfortunately, the halfway point. And I don't know why, because that hasn't been the case the last few years. You guys are finishing right there, shares of the conference. How are you doing that year in and year out? What is that testament to? Because it's got to be something, Coach. It's either in the water or in the chicken. I'm not sure, but there's something going on, or it's in the weight room or what you guys are building there. So could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. Well, number one, I think the Federal League is a very proud conference, and obviously the level of football is outstanding. So when you're playing against teams like Perry and against Glen Oak and Hoover and Lake and McKinley on a weekly basis, and we're new members when it comes to, historically speaking, the Federal League. So and we're okay with people not talking about us. That's totally fine. I think that's played to our advantage in the past couple of years as we've been able to maybe kind of sneak in through the back door and play some really good football in the back half. But that's really a credit to the change has been a credit to our weight room. And you hit it, is that the emphasis in the last 6 years has been we better prepare when it comes to November through the summer and be on the same level as some of these other Federal League teams and the teams in our region. Not to say that they didn't lift weights before, Coach Geis arrives in Green, but it's a different mentality that we've had in the past 6 years. And the level of preparation has been there, and that means everything from nutrition. Football has become important in these kids' lives, and they've made that change. We've also updated our weight room. We've put in some money and invested in these kids. And our district has done a good job making football important at the same time with some support. But again, credit goes to our coaches and our kids and really getting on board and getting kids in the weight room.
I mean, Coach, right there, it's kind of the recipe, and it's tough. It's easy to say it. It's one thing to implement, and then obviously to see it take form with that. Your quarterback play last year, to kind of dial it back, Tyson Hunka currently right now at the helm. Last year, he steps in, huge learning curve, okay, picks up a lot of huge minutes and gets ready for the playoffs, and then you kind of get to the 2 quarterback setting. Moving into this year, it's his. I'm jealous, and a lot of teams probably are, because you still got him next year, okay, and that's a nice thing to have. How much have you seen his growth take off from a leadership standpoint? Because it's usually tough for upperclassmen to let underclassmen lead, and the quarterback position demands that. How much have you seen growth from him this year?
Yeah, well, the first thing is Tyson does not lack any confidence and any grit when it comes to playing varsity football. And we saw that immediately his sophomore year. His first game as a full starter was against Glen Oak, and we were down, I think, 3 scores going into halftime. And he came out and played a magnificent half as just a 15-year-old. Can't even drive himself to school, but he's driving an offense. And that was just, you could see right there the level of confidence he has in himself. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to being a leader. You can't look to a leader and as someone who maybe doesn't know what they're doing or not as confident in themselves, but they look to Tyson and he's always dialed in. He's always there to help these guys out, and he's never afraid of the moment. That's the biggest thing. And we've had some big key moments in his career this year where the Jackson game and the final drive, we drove 85 yards or 82 yards. The moment was never too big for him to make some plays. And when you have a kid like that leading your offense, those guys certainly are confident behind him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he's got 2 weapons in Evan Reed and Antonio Martin. The offense in years past, kind of looking at that, the run game was sometimes something that people questioned. Is there one? Where is it? Is this just the way that coach wants to run his offense? I think my question more for you is, are you finding it each year you're starting to tailor your offense to what type of players you have? Because now that you have a running back and a long, that I've really seen a lot of that implemented into this season. Is that something that you're starting to kind of see as your tenure at Green continues to grow and you see what Green has to offer? Is that, am I kind of on the track of something there? Because the running game is definitely apparent this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we want to be balanced. I've never hidden from that. We strive for balance offensively. On some of those years, we just didn't have guys in the running back position. And so, I think the rumors started happening is, they want to do is throw the ball. And we did. We weren't afraid to throw it like that. I've never been afraid to throw the ball. But we did still want to run the ball even when we were strictly empty. And now we tailor it to the kids you have. We've always had that philosophy. We've got some really good running backs in junior Anthony McMichael and Evan Reed. And then still have guys on the outside like Caden Gregory and Antonio Martin that can make you pay. So that has helped us in our balance. We've also been playing some much better defense. And sometimes offensively, you have to kind of know, don't put your defense in some bad spots. And that helps you, be a little more philosophically balanced and trying to make sure that you put them in a good level of play as well. So offensively speaking, we've definitely gotten much more balanced the last 2 years.
I just wanted to make sure, because correct me if I'm wrong, when you played, you were an offensive lineman, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And now I coach the quarterback. So
okay, it doesn't matter now, but I know that a lineman definitely wants to run the ball. So that's why I had to ask that coach, because looking back. With that being also said, and I said I was going to ask some random question before we started. Superstitions on game day. Okay. What do you have? Because over the years, I'll give you credit. And this, I don't want this to be taken on. Your dress code is phenomenal. Okay. You're one of the best dress coaches, I think, in Northeastern Ohio. I'm jealous of the white belt. You rock it well. Okay. I've only ever seen that pulled off at Swenson's, but you do it super well and you're finely dressed. Any other odd superstitions that you have every Friday night, whether it's what you're wearing, what you go do, maybe it's the night before with the family, taking time for Coach Geis so that people kind of give a little insight into what goes beyond just you putting the headset in and calling a Friday night game.
Sure. I have a couple that are probably not very well known, and some of the other coaches may see I wear a 4-leaf clover pin on my jacket every night, or my shirt, and that pin was actually given to me pregame against Massillon in the regional championship by my daughter and my son. Pregame. It was the same week that my wife's grandmother passed away, and she said that I needed a little luck, so I wear that pin on my jacket. I've worn that every game since. Just a superstition. Obviously, it paid off that night. A little bit of luck, but.
Yeah. Definitely that night. Yeah. Go on. Sorry to interrupt, dude. Don't send me down that rabbit hole. It's a great game, but keep going, Coach. I'm sorry to interrupt.
The other one actually came to fruition against Glen Oak. We always sit in the same seats as coaches. We ride in the same bus. I'm on bus 1. I sit in seat number 2 on the right hand side. My same assistant, who's been with me for a long time, Coach Petrick, sits to my left. Just kind of like weird superstitions, but we always are the lead bus. And we got on the bus to go to Glen Oak, and the bus driver says to us, are you guys ready to go? We said, we are. And she says, I'll call the lead bus up. And we all froze. And my assistant says, we're on the lead bus. And she says, well, I've never led before. And I looked at her and I laughed and I said, nothing like a first time. Let's go. And she credit to her, she jumped and said, I'll lead. And when we're getting off the bus, we tell her, if we win tonight, you're the MVP. And sure enough, we got back on and she was smiling and laughing after the game. So
that's funny. I almost wanted her to say no, because I had a feeling there would have been a coach that would have jumped in the driver's seat to still make sure that was leading it. Well, Coach, like I had mentioned, you guys are the game of the week this week, taking on Perry. What are you telling your team right now? Because after the last 2 weeks, you've had some very convincing wins. Prior to that, some close ones that you guys have been able to find ways to win and whatnot. But going into this last game with Perry and then Lake, what are you telling your team as you're gearing up for a very tough Region 5, correct? Region 5 run in the playoffs. What's the message to the team this week?
Well, and I know there's a lot of different philosophies on talking about the playoffs, but I've never been afraid of talking about it with my team, because they need to understand where they're at. And they need to understand that they need to be playing their best football this time of year if they think they have any chance of being a viable candidate in the playoffs. So we've talked about just playing your best football right now. And that's our goal this week against Perry, is to play the best football game that we've played so far. And obviously they bring a lot of advantages with offensively. They've ran that wing tee for, since I can remember. I was a little boy, and they run it very well. They do it better than anybody in the state of Ohio, in my opinion. And if you don't play really, really sound defense and do your job and hold yourself accountable to the defensive game plan, you're going to have trouble. And our guys know that that's what it's going to take to be successful Friday night.
Definitely going to be a physical game. Well, Coach, before I let you go, the Green Faithful that's following in to check out the game, what are you telling to the community, to the fan base? What's your message to this point and moving forward for them?
Well, I think first off, I want to say thank you to them, because they've supported us tremendously, and even me since I've been here the last 6 years. And they've been there, through some tough times and through some good times in the last 6 years. And so thank you to them. And our student section's been amazing. But what I would ask them is just to keep making football important in the city of Greene. We're doing a lot of great things in this program, doing a lot of great things for kids. This is a great place to be. And certainly, love their support. And they know the Federal League's tough. Just come out Friday night, and regardless of what the outcome is, just be there to support our kids.
Well, Coach, to leave you with that's great advice for the community. We wish you guys nothing but the best. Thank you for taking time out to be able to interview with me, and best of luck this Friday as you take on the Perry Panthers.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.